10 years before Sword Art Online grabbed the anime industry's attention, a company called CyberConnect 2 laid the groundwork with Project .hack. It was the era of the PS2, and most Westerners' introduction to the franchise was through its game series. A 4-part story: Infection, Mutation, Outbreak, and Quarantine. The games themselves simulating an MMORPG setting to tell the story of Kite, a new player who began his game trying to find out what happened to his friend that caused him to fall comatose after being attacked. Something in this virtual world is causing real-world damage. The first .hack game wouldn't officially publish until June of 2022, and 2 months prior began airing the beginning of the franchise, .hack Sign, and this series would leave its mark on the anime industry forever. Somewhere in the world, as the game's setting is called, a lone wave master wakes up in the carcass of something rotten, a biological building with a random chest in front of him. He's immediately found by a heavy blade. Yeah, .hack has its own MMO terminology for the classes, but this player seems friendly and introduces herself as Mimiru, before the mage teleports out. It appears the wave master has no recent memory. He's approached by some guys calling themselves the Crimson Knight and asked about a cat character the Wave Master has been seen with, stating that the cat character was clearly an illegal edit. He teleports again and encounters Mimiru again. The Wave Master shows he has knowledge he's in a game, but when he goes to try and log out, he can't. And the next character to be introduced, Bear, the Blade Master. He tries to talk to the Wave Master, but the kid seems to remain evasive. Another attempt at logging out fails, and ends up in a third encounter with Mimiru. He finally lets slip this new problem of his, but they end up getting into a bit of a word fight. The Wave Master returns to the meaty dungeon where he woke up for us to get some plot development, but it's all cryptic. This is the first episode, so expect to not get answers for a while. One of the Crimson Knights shows up and initiates some PvP, but an unknown entity shows up to BTFO him. Meanwhile, in the real world, EMS responds to a call and finds a girl unconscious on the floor of her apartment. Bear and Mimiru meet up to talk about the message board, the cat character, and the Wave Master's inability to log out. It's also the first time his name is actually said, Tsukasa. Elsewhere, a female Wave Master in a Twin Blade fight, and we get a picture that Mr. Twin Blade isn't a good guy. We also learn that the Crimson Knights are now hunting Tsukasa. The female Wave Master tells Bear about her run-in with the Twin Blade PKer, whose name is apparently Sora. Bear, Mimiru, and I'ma just use her name now, BT, talk about Tsukasa not being able to log out. Bear gets deeply philosophical about it, but also rationalizes that maybe Tsukasa's problem is with his real body. Elsewhere, Tsukasa is talking to the cat character. We get a peek into his motivations, then Tsukasa becomes the next target of Sora. But Tsukasa escapes through a secret entrance to a hidden level. There he encounters a sleeping child and is told to contact Mimiru. Who's telling him this? You'll learn that later. He does though, and as he seems to gloat a bit, the bluster drops when Mimiru tells him that the Silver Knight his guardian beat was actually physically hurt, IRL. Remember, this was a decade before SAO, and the scene ends with the guardian becoming hostile towards Mimiru and fighting Bear. Meeting up with BT again, Bear talks about how he thinks Tsukasa is under a completely separate set of rules than everyone else given his circumstances. Then BT brings up the third plot for the series. It's not just Tsukasa can't log out and the hacked cat character. BT suggests that maybe he found the, quote, hidden item that can overwrite the very foundation of the world. It's called the Key of the Twilight. Imagine an MMO dev puts a literal dev key as an item in their game. We've been getting scenes of the Crimson Knights reporting to a woman with wings and an axe. Her name is Subaru, by the way, and she's kind of a guild leader to them. She meets up with Sora, who wants to talk about the Key of the Twilight. She ends up deciding to work with him for the time being, in spite of her skepticism that the key even exists. Most players don't believe in such a rumor. Mimiru has been trying to contact Tsukasa for a while, and finally gets a response, but sends Bear to meet him in her place. Tsukasa demonstrates he's got a level of command over his guardian now, but this interaction goes nowhere because he leaves as soon as Bear offers some minor pushback. So Bear and Mimiru get in contact with BT, Sora, and Subaru, who brings some Crimson Knights with her. and they share what they've learned, with word spreading about Tsukasa and his guardian amongst the player base. Subaru did some research, and Tsukasa seems to have been logged in for 10 days already. That should be a major red flag for anyone who knows basic human biology. And he's definitely not an NPC. Now everyone is digging for info on Tsukasa in different ways, not just in-game or in the admin logs, but Bear seems to be looking into the real world too. And after a group of players attacked Tsukasa, leading to his guardian going a bit berserk, Subaru puts him on a wanted list with instructions to capture, though she's not too terribly specific on how to go about doing this. She even comments during the event of his capture that what they're doing is way overboard, but the plan is successful, and now Subaru has the chance to talk with him. She learns he has physical sensations that he shouldn't. He can smell and feel the world, which shouldn't be possible. Bear and Mimiru plan to rescue Tsukasa, but Sora arrives first like the villain he is. He gets Tsukasa outside where he's intercepted by Mimiru. The scene that follows shows us that Tsukasa has a deep distrust of people in general. But the reality is that Bear, Mimiru, and Subaru are sympathetic to Tsukasa, wanting to help him find a way to log out. And there also seems to be a second guardian now, one that's not controlled by Tsukasa. And throughout the story, we get snippets of the real world through Tsukasa's memories and Bear looking for him, but all mysteries are revealed in time. The cat character and the voice tempting Tsukasa, the truth behind the Key of the Twilight, who Tsukasa is and why he's trapped in the MMO world, with an ending that recontextualizes Tsukasa's entire character. This kind of escalation is typical of a building narrative, though .hack Sign as a series does a lot more visual storytelling than verbal. Lots of extended scenes of wordless scenery, showing off the world and its landscape to us. It's every bit a high fantasy world you'd expect from a typical JRPG from the mid to late 90s. That era of N64 and PS1 shifting from 2D sprites to 3D maps. The writers and developers taking inspiration from Phantasy Star Online, Ultima Online, and Final Fantasy XI. The scenery itself looks almost painted when contrasted with the characters, pretty standard for late 90s, early Y2K as far as visual design goes. And for design, the audio of .hack Sign is iconic. Every weeb who lived through that era has ingrained in their mind the world and the Key of the Twilight. Everyone knew Fake Wings and A Stray Child. And even hearing them now, over 20 years later, still evokes chills and a profound sense of sadness. If you were to play In the Land of Twilight Under the Moon, there's a high chance of anyone who hears it, who's actually old enough to remember Toonami Super Saturdays, will begin singing along with it. And I don't know of any other anime who's ingrained their OST so thoroughly in the minds of their watchers. Sure, series like Cowboy Bebop or Evangelion become famous or infamous for their opening and ending tracks, but .hack Sign did it with its insert songs. Not many series have managed to make their insert tracks so deeply recognizable in the anime industry or so deeply ingrained in the culture of their watchers. The story itself is a very slow and methodical adventure. It'd be fair to say that about half of the actual show is just scenery and visual storytelling without any dialogue. So even though it's a very heavy and dramatic story, it's not just one you can passively take in. You actually have to pay attention to the visuals to understand the characters, especially Tsukasa, who spends most of the first half of the show being evasive, never really giving us much in the way of words, but his actions speak volumes to who he is. And this is even more true with the cat character, who, even though it talks, only Tsukasa can hear it. And when I say that, I don't mean through Tsukasa we can hear the cat player speak, I mean to us, the audience, the cat is also completely mute. So we can only really infer what was said by how Tsukasa responds to it. I don't remember seeing another series, anime or not, take that approach to the character, entirely omitting their dialogue and leaving the viewer to fill in the blanks. Airing in 2002 and created by B-Train Productions, a studio that only lasted from 1997 to 2012, .hack Sign runs 26 episodes long, so the slow visual nature of the storytelling could cause many to get bored with it, especially since you have to actually watch the show. To tangent on B-Train a bit, some of their more well-known works include Metabots, 2 seasons of Tsubasa Chronicle, Blade of the Immortal, and hilariously, the 6-episode Batman Gotham Knight OVA that rolled out prior to The Dark Knight hitting theaters in 2008, and the 8-episode Halo Legends ONA. Yes, really. And aside from .hack Sign, B-Train also made most of the .hack anime. Legend of the Twilight, Roots, Unison, Intermezzo, and GU Runner, with only the GU trilogy being made by CyberConnect 2. Realistically, you could call .hack Sign more of an art piece than an actual story. Makes it great for watch parties, but solo viewing leaves a lot to be desired. The slow pace of the story is one of the biggest drawbacks for the show, though. As it currently is, I don't think .hack as a franchise has much to offer the modern market. It had that quartet of games from 2002 to 2003, and had a short-lived MMO from 2005 to 2007, along with the 2006 .hack GU trilogy of games that got a 2017 remaster for the PS4. But it hasn't really gotten much, if any, meaningful additions past 2010. The idea itself was pretty novel for the time, and it clearly was profitable enough to get some anime, a bunch of manga and novels, and at least 7 full JRPGs for the PS2. But it just fell off as the market evolved and hasn't really been seen since. The idea still has merit to it, clearly, but I don't think we'll be seeing a revival for Project .hack for several more years, if at all. And that's .hack Sign. I am the NBT. This has been the Noble Weeaboo. Like or don't, sub or don't. As a piece of anime history and an iconic OST, .hack Sign deserves some recognition, and there's plenty to enjoy with the games, but I don't think it's one that will be widely enjoyed, especially by newer anime watchers who are accustomed to the more modern style of animation and storytelling. But just about everyone enjoys the music, so even if you don't watch the show or play the games, give the OST a shot. And thank you for watching.